happening, guys? I thought today I'd go through a bit of a video about the cars I've grown up with, and obviously what inspired me in my passion for cars. This is a picture of my brother's Integra. So I'll paint the scene for you. It was the late 90s. Obviously, Fast and Furious was out. Initial D had just started making its way to Australia too, and I was pretty much hooked on the scene. Paul Walker, obviously, an amazing actor, may rest in peace. And as I said, Initial D was just making it over onto, obviously, Australian soil. One of my first cars I ever had was a 1993 Honda Prelude SI BB4. It was a non-VTEC, but it still was fairly quick for what it was. This is back in the day when obviously body kits were all the rage for cars. Obviously, as I said, Fast and Furious was out, and it just, obviously, everyone was slapping body kits on their cars. I was no different. First thing I did to the Prelude when I got it was obviously put a Black Widow front bumper bar on it, and I had that full body kit look. Look, I ended up going a bit too hard on this car, and I cracked the engine, unfortunately. So I had to get rid of it, but it was truly one of my favourite cars I've ever owned. There's going to be quite a bit of overlap in some of these cars too. It's not always just getting rid of them and then buying another one. But after I cracked the engine on this, I got a hand-me-down from my brother, which was originally my mother's car, but then it got transferred to me, obviously, and it was a 1998 RAV4 Cruiser. 5-speed manual, baby blue in colour. Look, a fun car, obviously. Probably not something that I would ever choose again, but it was all I had at that stage, and obviously money was scarce and there's not much you can do. Car prices back then for kids in their early teens was not really readily available, and we didn't really spend them on cars. But with this particular RAV4, I made the engine bay look a lot nicer than what it was. Also did some engine work with some with Celica parts, Celica throttle body. I put super injectors in it. I did various other things, a pod filter, give it a bit more sound, and put an exhaust on it as well. Look, great car. Couple of years after owning that, I then moved on to one of my favourite cars of all time, which I was sad to see go, which was my 1998 R34 Skyline. It started life as a pretty stock Skyline, no exhaust, just some gold mags. That was pretty much it, and then I went to work on it after that. I ended up obviously making a spoiler for it, like we've done in the other video with the converting into a GT wing, and you'll see a picture of that now. So yeah, this car was one of my favourite cars. I had it for so many years, actually. I used to take it everywhere with me, even the beach, as you can see here. Look, the parts on it were a mix between real and fake, but I had HKS Hypermax suspension. I took it to the track occasionally as well, so I did have a lot of fun in this car. It was really my ultimate car back then, and I absolutely loved it. I'm about to show you a video of me at the track now. I've turned it down heaps because the wind noise is just terrible, but have a look at this. So yeah, I was always into my grip driving, not a huge fan of drifting. But as I said, I did have some suspension mods, and I also wrapped the interior in carbon fiber wrap, put some digital gauges in there to make it look a bit more modern. It was a really cool car. Everyone used to look at it everywhere it went, and it was super clean as well. And I was sad to see it go. I blocked off the blow-off valve as well, which you'll see a video of that here now. So it's important to say that this picture here, 2 days later, something very bad happened. And that's going to pop up on the screen now. So my car made it to the news. It was involved in a high-speed police chase. Not myself, obviously, driving, someone else out on parole. It rammed a cop car, outran 7 police cars actually in total, which I was pretty impressed with at the time. But yeah, look, it wasn't good. It's worth mentioning during this time too that, as I said, there was going to be some overlap in cars. I also had a Z30 or ZZW30 MR2, which was my cousin's, that I was doing work on to sell. So at this stage, I didn't have the MR2 and I didn't have the Skyline anymore. But we'll bring up the MR2 now so you guys can see that. But as I said, there is some overlap. So yeah, this is the 2004 ZZW30 MR2. Ultra fun. You'll see a video of that here. It wasn't the quickest car I've ever had, but it was fun. The handling on it was amazing. It was a 5-speed sequential gearbox, so basically manual auto clutch. Yeah, super fun car. So I ended up getting rid of that before the Skyline was stolen. So as I said, there was a bit of an overlap there. So at this stage, I needed a car, and I didn't have a lot of money, but I needed to buy something. Now, as I've mentioned before, I was a huge Initial D fan. I never really considered myself to be, I guess, like Takumi Fujiwara. That's not me. I always considered myself to be, I guess, Itsuki, his stupid friend. That's me in a nutshell. So here's my 1987 A82 Corolla twin cam. It had a 4AG in it, or it still does have a 4AG in it. And I ended up owning this car for a long time. Truly one of my favourite cars. Just raw 80s nostalgia. It was all driver focused, so no ABS, nothing like that. You just had to know how to drive. And if you made a mistake, you were going to pay the price. So I did a bit of engine work on that there. Just air induction, exhaust and things like that. But it was honestly one of my favourite cars. I'd started working in the city at this stage, and I felt like I needed something that was a bit more, I guess, luxury and probably less boy racer-ish. And I came across this for sale, which is popping up now, which was my 1991 Z30 Soarer V8. I'd never had a V8 before in my life, so it made sense that my first V8 was going to be a Japanese one. Look, not a bad car. It did have quite a few gremlins in it though, unfortunately. So I didn't have it for very long. So look, it was forest green, I believe they call the colour was, but it was amazing how much technology they fit into a car of this age. It was ridiculous. It was super clean, but the engine and certain components of it was bad. It sounded amazing. So I'm about to throw a video of that up here now, and you can hear the engine, and it's mind-blowing. So obviously after I sold that, I went back to my Corolla, and we just did what we did for a while. By this stage I'd started a new job and I was just doing my own thing, and I still checked car sales and other sales sites regularly to obviously see what was out there. I then came across a car which I'd never thought I'd find one for the price that I did, and it was a 1991 MR2 Toyota, obviously manual 5-speed, SW20 model, one of the first editions, so they call it revision 1, I believe. And obviously all of a sudden nostalgia hit me back again from the Initial D days, obviously with the SW20 in that one there in the third stage. Like I said, I don't know how many of you guys follow Initial D, but I used to love the show, and it fed my passion. So here's my 1991 SW20. It was a non-turbo. When I got the car, the interior was disgusting. The steering wheel, the gear shifter, everything, just not a pretty car. But it did come with some nice 17-inch wheels, which I didn't like anyway. So I started working on the interior now. Changed the gear boot, the gear knob, put a plate in there, the steering wheel was fixed, and made it a lot more, I guess, fresh and clean. It's important to mention now too that during this time, I also still had my Corolla. The Corolla has not left the building yet, and it was still obviously at my house and whatnot. So I changed all the indicators around on the car to black or smoked, and that worked out well. Also I took off the rims and I threw on a pair of Skyline R33 standard wheels because I thought they suited the car a lot better because I was going for that more stock look. Obviously I upgraded the brakes, snap oversteer, was never an issue with me in that. Slotted and drilled rotors, and basically just maintained the car. I've still got the MR2 today, but this brings us to the next car, which you're all familiar with, my 2001 Skyline R34 Series 2 25 GT Turbo. Unfortunately, I was only allowed 2 cars at this stage, so I had to say goodbye to the Corolla, unfortunately. If I could have kept it, I would have, but I only had room for 2 cars. So the Skyline came on board as a standard, stock as a rock Skyline, standard Series 2 front bumper, no spoiler, no nothing, and it was just bone stock. Still great car, loved it like that, but it just wasn't my style. I had to make it my car and get it feeling like it was my car. So the interior was completely stock, the engine was completely stock, nothing was touched in it at all, and I pretty much had all the receipts for it. So one of the first things I did was I changed the rear lights and brake light, which you're about to see now, to the LED style ones. This is before I started the YouTube channel, so I never really thought of recording it, but obviously then I got the Nismo cluster in, which I forgot to upload a video of that. So the MR2, the Skyline, the Corolla's gone, unfortunately. Then we started working on the Skyline. Basically, we started off with a Series 1 front bumper, did some Nismo parts on there as well too. At this stage, the car still had no spoiler. We hadn't put it on yet. And then obviously I'm not going to harp on this too much because you already know what it looks like today. So that's it there at the moment. Obviously the S-Tune wing, the Altia front bumper. Obviously we did some engine modifications. But this brings me to my last point. What was my favourite car? What car did I love the most out of all the cars I've owned, which have only ever been Japanese? That's right, my AE82 Corolla 4AG. I can't tell you why I like it the most, but it's just a certain feeling when I had it, when I was driving it. It made me smile, and it was just the right car for me. So yeah, that's all I really have to say. It was just a great vehicle, and it just did it for me, I guess. I'd have one again in a heartbeat if I could. That brings us to the end of the video, guys. As I said, anyone who ever takes the time to watch my videos or support the channel, leave comments, things like that, I really appreciate it. This is just to give you a bit more insight on obviously what I do with my cars and what cars I've had in the past. Thank you everyone who's subscribed, thank you everyone who's watched, and I'll be doing some more stuff shortly, so I appreciate everyone who tunes in. Take care everyone, bye.